Many claim a supplement has freed them from a life of prescription pain pills, while others say it is a dangerous, unregulated substance. It's called Kratom. What we're hoping to have today is a meaningful discussion, and we have joining us a panel of Kratom proponents, documentary filmmaker Chris Bell.
Why does this always happen to me? It seems like I always end up in the middle. In my first film, Bigger, Stronger, Faster, my brothers were both using steroids, and I wasn't. I was stuck in the middle of following the rules or being the best. In my second film, Trophy Kids, I ended up in the middle of anxious parents living vicariously through their children's sports dreams.
Pull your head out of your ass, dude, seriously.
Can you be any stupider? How dumb!
In Prescription Thugs, I exposed Big Pharma.
How many pills a day were you doing?
90.
As well as my own addiction to opioid painkillers. See, the thing is, before I was a filmmaker, I was a power lifter, and I wasn't half bad. Lifting gave me purpose. I was a shy, chubby kid, but when I started breaking records and lifting more than my older brother Mad Dog, people began to notice, and it felt good. I even got my little brother Smelly involved. At one point, we had so many trophies from lifting that we just throw them in the garbage. I no longer wanted to be like my heroes. I just wanted to be the strongest man in the world. But what I didn't realize is all that wear and tear on the human body comes with a price. And for me, that price was pain. Shortly after Bigger, Stronger, Faster, I had both of my hips completely replaced due to a genetic condition. My dad had hip surgery at 17, so it runs in the family. This is a double hip replacement surgery, and I'm only 35 years old. Sounds scary, right? Well, not for me. They told me I was going to be walking the same day. This is what they mean by walking the same day. I'm high on pain pills, so all I can picture is myself, all jacked and tan, in a Rocky montage, making a comeback. The more it hurt, the more pills I took. But when I was about to turn that corner and run up the stairs, my brother Mad Dog died in a sober living facility at 37 years old. After seeing my brother die and knowing that drugs were at the core of it, you would think I would stop taking pills. But at that point, it was too late. I was addicted. My life was going off the rails, but I wasn't the only one. It seemed like our whole country was popping pills.
Americans account for the use of approximately 99% of one specific opioid, a powerful painkiller called hydrocodone.
Every day, 91 Americans die from an overdose of opioids, which include prescription painkillers and heroin.
We know that 4 out of 5 new heroin users started on prescription pills.
We saw more people die of drug overdoses than die of car accidents.
In and around Huntington, West Virginia, 28 overdoses occurred in one 5-hour span.
The point that everyone is missing is that we don't have an opioid epidemic. We have a pain epidemic, and we're just treating the wrong thing.
You've been doing a documentary about all the different components of addiction, of selling these pills, and yet you still got sucked into the web.
Yeah, exactly. That's how powerful it is.
But you are about as educated about it as a person can be.
I think now I am. During the making of Prescription Thugs, the film was delayed and the funding got pulled, and I didn't know how to handle it. I relapsed and ended up back on pills. They say you haven't made it in Hollywood until you've been to rehab. So I went out to Malibu to face my demons head on. But after 90 days of rehab and doing everything that was asked of me, there was one big glaring problem that rehab couldn't fix. I was still in pain. I had kicked my addiction and was back on the straight and narrow. I began searching for alternatives to relieve my pain.
So after I got done with the opiates, I was on Dr. Drew's show, and he said, well, you should try Advil and Tylenol in combination. That's going to be better than an opiate for your chronic pain. So I said, okay, I start trying that. Then I get a phone call from my friend who lives in England, who tells me he just had a kidney transplant because of all the NSAIDs he was taking.
NSAIDs are non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, things like the painkillers found in Advil, Aleve, and aspirin. So what's the answer? Am I supposed to just live with the pain? Then I got a call from a familiar voice.
It's good to see you. I missed you, man. I haven't seen you in so long. We haven't even talked in a while.
My friend Horseshoe said he discovered the Holy Grail, a natural painkiller that won't kill you called Kratom.
When did you start taking it?
About 9 months ago. Yeah.
And how do you feel?
I feel great.
You know, so we talked in Prescription Thugs. You had a massive, massive, massive stroke, in the words of your doctor. Does it help with that?
It helped me immensely. Yeah.
How do you handle pain?
I take Kratom.
How'd you handle it before?
Look, man, I would stand up. I would walk like this. You remember, I'd be walking like this. You know what I mean? Hunched over for 20 minutes, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, slowly working back up.
Walking slow. Now I just stand up. You know what I mean? Stand up, walk around.
You know, that study came out, it was like 65 wrestlers under the age of 50 have died.
Yeah.
And they blame steroids all the time, right?
It's not steroids. It's the wrong combination of drugs. It's probably alcohol with Vicodin with cocaine. You know what I mean?
I knew as long as I stuffed myself with painkillers, I couldn't feel it, and I couldn't feel the pain, and I would go as long as I could until my body couldn't go anymore.
Yeah, Vicodin and vodka were my closest friends.
Wow.
And my closest enemies.
Once I had the stroke, I refused to go back to pain pills. You know, before I had the stroke, I was doing about 90 pain pills a day for 7 years. And then when I had the stroke, when I recovered, I refused to go back to pain pills, and I found Kratom.
Horseshoe pointed us to Vegas to meet his friend Kelly, who's been selling Kratom since 2010. He owns one of the top Kratom companies in the country.
I used to be into boats and boat racing and so forth, and I was in an accident where, you know, I broke my orbital and broke the right side of my face in a boat crash. When I went to the doctor, especially for the orbital, there's nothing they can do, so they give you pain medication. They gave me Percocets. And he gave me, I want to say, 60 pills with 3 refills. Or stuff I really needed for
a week.
You know, a week, maybe 4 or 5 days, maybe. Like everybody else, I started taking the perks, and they kind of become habit for me, and then you start thinking about, well, shit, my day might not function quite as well if I don't take this, so I better take it. And, you know, and it led to the point where now when I wanted to stop, I was going to get sick. Somebody had introduced me to Kratom. I was involved in the head shop industry. I owned a couple smoke shops at the time, and introduced to Kratom, and it was a real easy transition out of the Percocets.
What's so special about this stuff? Why should we care about Kratom?
You know, well, for one, because it's been so helpful to so many people. We know that it's been a medicinal plant for hundreds of years. There were tribes in Indonesia that used to build their village around a series of Kratom trees because it was central to their way of life.
So if people have been using this for hundreds of years, why have I never heard of it? Dr. Darshan Singh has been studying the traditional uses of Kratom in his homeland of Malaysia for over 10 years.
I've been spending a lot of time on Kratom research in Malaysia, and in Malaysia I'm known as Dr. Kratom, okay? So I've been going in, trying to understand why people use Kratom. If I were to make my own Kratom tea for personal consumption, I would just have to go behind my house and just pluck maybe like about 20 leaves, just brew it, and I will just switch off the fire and then allow it to cool down, and then I'll just consume it the whole day.
So you guys don't have an opiate crisis like we have over here?
Oh, we have opioid addiction problem. People are using Kratom to self-treat opioid abuse, alcohol abuse, and crystal meth abuse. You can actually use Kratom to treat chronic pain. And you can also use it to treat opioid addiction, because opioid addiction is also associated with pain. In traditional settings, those who are using Kratom, they are not labeled or stereotyped as drug addicts or drug users. They do not engage in criminal behavior. If you were to compare heroin or morphine users on the street, they do engage in risky behaviors. They do commit crime because they have to support the addictive behaviors. While Kratom users in traditional settings, they use Kratom for medicinal purpose. And people living in Southeast Asia, like from where I'm coming, Malaysia, people have been using Kratom for 200 over years, okay? And you need to make sure that you have genuine distributors of Kratom in the United States.
If Kratom is so great, then why haven't I seen it on store shelves? Probably because you can't get it at your local pharmacy or GNC. For now, you have to venture into your local smoke shop. And that's not usually where I get my medicine.
See, this is more what I would picture like a supplement to look like. Yeah. Happy Kratom.
I was in the Army for 6 years, and I have friends with PTSD who they give them this drug and that drug, and they all have bad side effects, and they get hooked on them. But they can use this, not get hooked on it, and not have all the bad effects. I'm not going to say it's going to cure it 100%, but it helps them live day to day without having an outburst or having a flashback. It just lets them have a normal life.
Yeah. I work 7 days a week, and my feet trust me to kill me. And then I take it, and after like half an hour, it's a different feeling. I don't feel that pain anymore, and it makes it easier for me to go on with my day.
Okay, so people take Kratom because they want to self-medicate. But before I try it, I wanted to talk to an expert on this stuff. So I found Dr. Schoenwetter. He has a lot of patients come to him to wean off of opiates, and oftentimes he recommends Kratom. He's also been tracking the progress of over 100 of his patients that are taking the plant.
There are so many compounds within the plant that the plant itself is a virtual pharmacy. The beauty of this, of course, is you don't need me to write it on a piece of paper. You can just get it yourself. So it's a great backup tool if you need something with a little more oomph than leave. There's a thing called affinity and a thing called activity. Affinity is how much substance will stick to a receptor. So if you can imagine having super glue on your finger and touching a piano key, you've got a very high degree of affinity. But activity, even though you're stuck to the key, you may not be able to press the key very loud. Kratom seems to have a high affinity for some of the opiate receptors, but it has a ceiling, and so it has a limited activity. It's not dangerous, but heroin or the strong opiate can push the key and make it really loud. Whereas buprenorphine and Kratom aren't able to make it as loud. They're stuck to the key, but they can't make it play as loud. I'm taking it today because I've had problems with arthritis and a knee effusion. So I'm able now to get off the walker and get off the offloader knee brace, and I'm back to myself.
So tell me how you came across Kratom.
I got introduced to it as the guy that was putting gas in the car. My wife had a migraine headache. She said, well, I'll go dig up something here at the station. At that time, a lady of the evening was stepping in and reached behind by the cigarettes and alcohol and pulled out a packet of Kratom. My wife immediately said, what's that? The kind lady said, it makes a lot of the aches and pains just go away. Janet says, I'll take one. Got in the car and said, Phil, what do you know about this? I know nothing. Absolutely nothing. I drove on, we headed south, and about 65 miles later, she said, Phil, the headache's gone. I said, really? I said, do you feel drowsy, dopey, sleepy? No, I want to drive down.
Have you seen a lot of side effects with Kratom?
Gastrointestinal was the predominant side effect.
So
I took a whole bag myself to push the limits to see if I was giving anyone a toxic dose. I got constipated.
That's about it?
That's it.
Dr. Schoenwetter assured me that Kratom was safe, but let's check out the science.
Went to pharmacy school to understand what it is about drugs that can make us heal or can hurt us.
This is Dr. Chris McCurdy. He's a professor at the University of Florida and the world-leading expert on Kratom.
We kind of relate the abuse potential of the plant itself, kind of similar to that of coffee. And it's interesting because it's in the coffee family. And so what we've done is systematically gone through, as I mentioned, looking at the individual compounds and started taking out certain alkaloids that we thought might be responsible for that effect. And we got down to a modified extract that didn't show any side effects on its own. What's different about Kratom is the fact that it not only interacts with that mu-opioid receptor, also interacts with dopamine receptors. So when you activate dopamine systems, you feel pleasurable, you feel good. We ran the most comprehensive target screen on it that's ever been published, and we came back with this profile. So serotonin, dopamine, alpha-adrenergic, and opioid. And I was like, holy cow, this is maybe the one drug that could really treat opiate addiction in a single chemical entity. There may be a cure for the pain. We think we're well on our way. So we get these mice addicted to morphine. If we give them a antagonist, naloxone, they will go into full withdrawal, what we call wet dog shakes, just like when a dog gets out of a pond and dries itself off, but these animals aren't wet.
Yeah.
They'll chatter their teeth. You can literally hear them, the mice. And then they'll have paw tremors. Most of the animals don't have very severe withdrawal after methadone, but the issue with methadone is they've continued to lose weight. And so it seems that the methadone is taking over their normal innate behavior to want to eat versus the animals that we habituate to morphine and then switch over to kratom. They return to eating normally and their body weight comes back to what it was when we started with them, or a little bit above, which is where you want to be because we're using these animals in their growth phase.
As a scientist studying it, do you try it yourself?
I've never tried it. We've brewed teas in the lab, but from a science standpoint, I don't want to be jaded or biased in my opinion of it.
Have you ever tried it?
Yeah, I have.
And what was your effects?
Mild mood elevation.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not in pain, so it's hard to comment on any analgesic effects.
Yeah.
Kratom represents a great starting point for developing new, safer pain relievers to replace the opioids that we have now on the market, and also potential implications for treating mood disorders like depression and anxiety. But these are a bit ratty looking, but...
Does it smell? Yeah, a little
it
bit.
smells like leaves.
Yeah, wow. So that's all it is, huh?
Yeah. And this is the mitragynine.
So that's what it looks like.
Yeah, it's just a very...
powder. So what you do is you make it and then you just run tests on it.
Yeah, we run tests in cells and we run tests in animals. So, and we try to extrapolate from that to humans, but of course there's limits to that.
With some of the
this is what it looks like when it's still has the chlorophyll impurities. So it's green like the leaf.
What's your goal? What do you want to do with it?
My goal is to make all these analogs and try to come up with a better version of the compounds that are out there in the plant itself. And eventually bring that to market as an FDA-approved drug.
Sure.
To replace oxycodone and the strong painkillers. I mean, I think there's a place for both, new pharmaceuticals that we develop synthetically starting from the kratom alkaloids, and also for kratom itself to be legal. There's no reason they can't coexist, because I really think they're addressing different issues.
This is Kratom 101. Kratom comes from the plant Mitragynous speciosa. It's a plant in the coffee family that grows in Southeast Asia. The kratom plant has been chewed, ground up, or drank as a tea for over 2,000 years in traditional and religious rituals, with zero history of fatal poisonings or deaths, and very little known abuse. Kratom is made up of over 40 alkaloids. What are alkaloids? Alkaloids are the active ingredient in the plant. Caffeine is an alkaloid of coffee or tea. The active alkaloids in kratom that are responsible for its health effects are mitragynine and 7-hydroxymitragynine. The way the plant is set up, at low doses, it works like a good cup of coffee. At high doses, it works like a mild opioid painkiller. These alkaloids affect what is called the mu-opioid receptor. That's in your brain. What else does it do? Well, nothing that's actually been studied on humans, but it's been reported to lower blood pressure, relieve pain, boost metabolism, improve your immune system, ease anxiety, help with addiction, eliminate stress, prevent diabetes, induce healthy sleep, and improve sexual energy. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA.
We were talking about what I think we say kratom. I think we call it kratom.
I'm going to take some right now. It takes like an hour to kick in, and this is a very mild dose.
It is 12:23. At 1:23, I'm going to start asking you weird questions.
Comedian Shane Moss used kratom to help him after a nasty accident.
About 3 years ago, I was out hiking, best shape of my life, and I jumped off a thing that was much too high, and I broke both of my heels. One of them exploded. Had to crawl down a mountain for a few hours. That's doctor's words, is that it exploded. I was like, really? That's your diagnosis? Is my heel exploded?
They must have had you on opiates, right?
They did. Yeah, I remember that I got my first shot of morphine, and right away I was like, whoa, I get it. I get why people like this. I don't understand how both of my feet are broken, and this is the best I've ever felt in my entire life. I don't see how that's a legal thing. This is all pretty numb in here. It's coming back. it feels better all of the time.
The reason why I'm wearing these baby skin bootsies is because my girlfriend picked them out for me, and she controls the puss distribution.
I was just complaining about my dumb foot to a bunch of comics, and they were like, oh, you should go to the Kratom bar. And I was like, what's that? And they're like, oh, it's just it's supposed to be good for pain relief, and it's some natural thing, and you go to a bar and drink it, and I found out it was legal, and I was like, it's probably no good.
Roots and leaves in a traditional Bilo cup. That's Komodo. It's our best stuff. Earthy notes with an oaky finish, huh?
Oh, no,
Yeah.
Earthy notes means it tastes like dirt. But after about 30 minutes, I began noticing that I was more focused, more alert, and more important, out of pain.
And all of a sudden I could walk like a normal person. Like I hadn't walked so well since my accident in 2.5 years or whatever it was at that point. And I was like, this is amazing. What is this stuff?
There was one other place, a head shop in Chicago, which sold it, 2006. Then we started, we were looking for different herbs, because that's what we sell here, raw, indigenous herbs and beverages. And then we tried Kratom, and people, hey, what was that stuff you had? And we started ordering it.
You're basically just grinding raw leaf, so you get it straight, put it in water.
Yeah.
Or juice
Kava.
or whatever, and kava, and
Kava root.
just making drinks, right? I mean, so it's just
as raw
as natural
as you
as
get. It's raw as you get.
What's it do for you?
It's like it's a calm energy, and you get just a focused, clear mind. It's relaxing, but it's stimulating at the same time.
It's nice to come here and have a
Yeah,
place
just
to
like
go instead of going to the
once in a while.
bar. Exactly.
Cool.
There's somewhere to go, mellow.
Yeah.
So.
How often do you come here?
I come here kind of every day.
I used to take Adderall. I don't take it anymore. I took it all through growing up and stuff.
Yeah, it just takes the edge off in general, If you're feeling kind of tense, which I usually am for whatever reason.
Wow. Kratom looks like a game changer. But then I turned on the news, and things started looking a little different. I should have known. If something sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Feds gearing up for a Kratom crackdown. Don't know the drug? You should. You can actually buy it in stores right now.
It comes in pills, powder, and liquid. And in 1 month, the DEA is ordering Kratom off all store shelves, putting it on the same level as heroin.
Kratom can be purchased over the counter right now, but in a month, it'll be illegal.
Dave, right now, it looks like I'm holding a vitamin supplement, but a month from now, this will look an awful lot like felony possession.
On August 30th, 2016, the DEA issued a notice of an intent to ban Kratom.
The FDA has decided it's in Schedule 1, therefore, because it has no medical value, there is a high potential for abuse. And most importantly, we're now getting data from folks around the country that people are dying from Kratom overdoses.
They cited 15 deaths and over 600 calls at poison control centers, which deemed it a national health emergency.
Freeze! Hey, guys, it's only vitamins.
The DEA said they wanted no public opinion on the matter. But we live in an era of Twitter and Joe Rogan, and the internet responded.
And apparently it helps a lot of people that have heroin addiction problems and opiate addiction problems.
And now all of a sudden people are going to have to go right back to finding whatever they used to take.
Go to the link below to find your senator and drop them an email tonight.
But the worst thing the DEA said to me was where they noted that their biggest concern with Kratom was the fact that some people were using it as an alternative to heroin and opiates. No fucking shit.
I'm Kristen Jacobs, mayor of Broward County.
But not everybody is so pro-Kratom. Meet Kristen Jacobs. She's on a mission to ban Kratom in Florida, and it looked like she was doing a pretty good job.
Broward State Representative Kristen Jacobs even compares it to heroin.
So I think it's a tragedy what's happening in this country, the addiction, and the stigma that's associated with it, and the cost of recovery, and the horrific withdrawal that you go through. It's a horrible, horrible thing to have to experience.
I promised you that by today I would basically send around a blizzard of information, as many of you have not heard of the word kratom before.
To me, the effects of kratom mimic the effects of opiate drugs.
This is not prescribed. This has not been tested by the Food and Drug Administration.
Having detoxed several people off of kratom, I will tell you it is harder to detox somebody off of kratom than it is to detox somebody off of heroin.
And then they also say that it is not addictive. It's no more addictive than a cup of coffee. But when you talk to doctors and you talk to the scientists and you talk to those epidemiologists that have been following this drug and the claims of others, you see that, in fact, those claims are not true. And then you start to talk to people who've used it, people who have lost loved ones to it, and their stories are significantly different.
Is there a way to keep this on the market while we research it more?
You know what? I understand when someone's addicted to a drug, they don't want someone to come take the drug away. The pain of recovery and withdrawals from any drug is a horrific thing to go through, and it's a horrific thing for any family to see.
The fact that those that are using it will tell you that it's not addictive and they can get off at any time, that's the voice of addiction telling you that.
Generally, what happens is the money that you need to buy those drugs soon runs out, and so you start finding other ways to find dollars. You may take it from your family or other easier opportunities first.
I haven't read anything about that. I've researched this every single day since we started this project. I haven't heard people stealing money or doing anything like illegal to get this drug.
Well, that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate, because I believe you'll talk to someone tomorrow that you'll interview that did just that.
He was stealing from the family. He'd already ripped me off for, $400, taken my debit card, and he drove to the top of that overpass, which was just a 2-minute drive. He got out of the car, he walked across the street to the southbound side, took off his sandals, and dove headfirst.
Ian Mottner's autopsy report showed an unknown amount of what's called mitragynine, the active ingredient in kratom. Also listed a number of antidepressants. Linda believes it was Ian's addiction to kratom that ultimately sent him over the edge.
And he was the kind of kid that I could trust, he always told me everything. We were super, super close. And he invited me to the Kava bar. He was spending a lot of money there, like about $50 a day. And when I went there, I didn't know what kratom was. I had a drink. I had a couple times I went down there and had a drink. I actually called my sponsor and I said, I tried this stuff. Ian's doing this a lot. And she said, you need to be careful, because that doesn't sound good.
So how long have you been sober for?
For 22 years now.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
That's amazing.
And I said, Ian, if you're doing drugs, this is really bad, because it can trigger the brain and set off things that, like bipolar disorder or schizophrenia. And he said, Mom, I'm not doing drugs, and it became like fighting that was going on between us. I mean, he'd spent hours in the bathroom picking his face, and one time the mirror even came off. The bathroom wall detached.
And why do you think he was picking his face? Like, what was he doing?
We thought it was meth. Like sometimes he'd be so sedated that his eyes would roll back in his head, and he'd talk to me and he'd go, Mother, and he'd nod off.
And that sounds like more like a heroin. Or like a nodding off on like pills or something like that. That's kind of very similar, more important, and important for parents to know. Like he was on medication as well, right? For psychological issues, right? So. If you're on medication and you're taking something that affects your brain, then we're really, kind of playing Russian roulette there. You don't know what you're getting into at all.
I've been accused of everything from, in blogs, from kicking my son out of the house because he was gay. What's that got to do with it, That came out in therapy. This was a different person. This was addiction. This was living in my house, and I couldn't have that.
You don't put any other stuff in your drink. It's kava and kratom, right?
As raw as you get.
Because Linda Mottner told me that you guys laced the drinks, and that's what made her son, jump off of a bridge and commit suicide, which is a very tragic story.
Well, Linda Mottner is consistently incorrect. I knew him personally. I just see a mother trying to make sense out of something senseless.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense. But his cause of death wasn't the kratom. She gets to go on news, you know, sympathetic media for whatever reason. I don't know. I don't know who's behind it or what. But she gets to say whatever she wants to say. And, you know, it's out there. So kratom has a PR problem.
Look, she told us, she was like, well, you know, he died from kratom. Are you sure? Well, the first time he checked into drug rehab, he had opiates in his system. The second time he checked into drug rehab, he had methamphetamines in his system. And he jumped off a bridge and killed himself. I mean, you know, God bless her. But it's like, ma'am, your son didn't die from kratom. I went from smoking a pack of cigarettes a day, drinking 20 Red Bulls a day, doing 90 pain pills a day, snorting 7 grams of cocaine a day, banging a ton of porn stars a day. I don't want to do anything, none of that. But here's the thing, I am in so much pain when I wake up. But then I found kratom. And my pain level, like I said, went from a 9 to a 3.
There was an infant born with total addiction, so they were in withdrawal. And the mother said the only thing that she had ingested was the kratom. Luckily, she had some of her kratom with her. And so they sent a sample to us, and we found that the actual kratom sample was adulterated with the hydrocodone.
Yeah, I mean, in Sweden, there were a bunch of deaths because of this laced product with O-desmethyl tramadol, which is a very potent synthetic opioid. And I mean, it seems pretty clear that the deaths are from that component and not from the kratom itself.
He has not died because of kratom. You see, as I said just now, people have been using kratom in Southeast Asia for more than 100 over years. There has not been any mortality cases. Nobody has died using kratom in Malaysia.
The only deaths listed as associated with kratom are polydrug situations where a person was on multiple other illicit and or prescription drugs when they died. It's not new, it's not synthetic. And the media is attaching onto this as new. It's new to the United States in the last 20 years, but it's been used in Southeast Asia for hundreds and thousands of years culturally for medicinal purposes. And yet here we have the DEA saying that there is no medicinal use from this plant when every single one of our members is getting medicinal benefit.
What is the problem with kratom? Like, why is it so controversial? Why are people so up in arms about it?
That could go in so many different directions, and I think primarily what the problem is, it is competition to some of the largest money-making industries in the United States. And I think that with the media and the propaganda that they've been allowed to spew to the public, which is based on exaggeration, people are believing that it is something like a legal heroin, which is, to me, the biggest joke and yet the saddest joke that I've ever heard. It's not the kind of thing that you crave and you feel like you have to go out and seek, because it's not the kind of thing that you can escape your life from. That's the major difference to me. When I was on opiates, I was using them to escape. It was a miserable existence. I was in my 30s. All my friends were getting married and having children. I never was able to have children. I was sick for 10 years. We are people that just want a natural alternative to prescription drugs, and this is what works for us. Also, interestingly, about 60% of our members have never even experienced addiction in their lives. They're just looking for an alternative to pain medications.
I figured if I'm going to continue to use kratom, I should probably consult with the people that matter the most. My brother Smelly recently started using kratom as a pre-workout supplement.
I like it, and I like the feeling of it. It felt pretty good.
What kind of feeling did you get from it?
It just kind of almost gave me like a sense of calmness and maybe a little bit better focus even.
Yeah, I wanted you guys to try it because I didn't want anybody to be scared of what I was taking. Was like one of the main reasons. Has it caused any concern for you, or?
It doesn't seem that powerful to have a negative impact on your life. You know, I guess that's what we're talking about here when we're talking about addiction. Like, who cares if you're addicted to lifting weights if it doesn't hurt anybody else?
You hurt your elbow, you're kind of, beat up. How do you cope with pain?
I usually just I mean, I usually just deal with it, you know? So for now, I'm trying to actually like listen to the doctors and stuff and use my arm a little bit less. I'm trying not to do any upper body exercises at all. You know, as long as I can get back to it at some point, it is what I love to do. So whether I have to have a surgery or whatever, I'll deal with it at that point.
You know, I had 1 knee replacement, 2 hip replacements. So they've been fine. I have no problem. I was riding my bike between 5 and 7 miles a day, you know, everything. And as I'm going to hand a guy a bag, I trip over a curb and I get this groin pull somehow. They gave me some hydrocodone to take, you know, and that was helping. I'd take 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, 2 at night, but it was still really painful. Ben, you had given me some kratom. I think it was, I can't remember exactly, but from April on, I was fine. I wasn't taking the hydrocodone anymore. I was taking that and I was back to riding my bike. I rode my bike all summer. And so I've been taking 2 a day. It doesn't make me high. I don't realize that I took it, but I'm always happy. I'm always in a good mood. I've never really been a person that was depressed or anything. I mean, I hate to be cynical, but like everything in this country is run by money. The government's not going to do the research, and the pharmaceutical companies aren't going to do the research unless there's something in it for them. If there's something in it for the government, they'll do it. If there's something in it for the pharmaceutical companies, they'll do it. But if there's nothing in it for either one of them, they won't put up the money. So if you come up with something like that, you've got to come up with the studies.
What do you have going on with you?
Well, it's an entrapped nerve in my back that's making the pain go all the way down into my leg and making me lose movement in my leg. And it's like 24/7 pain. Unless I'm sleeping, I don't know. I don't have any pain. Other than that, I have pain all the time. And I don't think people shouldn't try something for pain. I just don't think they should take more than they should. And I think all of it, the kratom and all, I think they're trying to stop it because they're probably trying to make it so they can sell it and make money.
Why are you afraid to try it?
For pain? I don't know. I just never tried any kind of anything. And so.
But if the doctor gave it to you, you would try it?
Well, I probably would.
So my mom was afraid to take kratom, but my friend's mom didn't hesitate. This is Tony from the gym. His mother started taking kratom to get off of hydrocodone and a lot of the other pills she's been prescribed.
You're 89 years old, huh?
Yeah.
You look fantastic.
Well, thank you.
Like a spring chicken, 89 years old. Come on.
Some days I feel like it.
You started taking kratom recently, huh?
Yes, because I'm on a lot of medicines. I'm on about 15 different medicines. Levothyroxine, Benicar, amlodipine, hydrochloride, hydrocodone, alprazolam, take calcium, the Prolia injection twice a year. I don't know a lot of people take as much medicine as I do. I have a sister, 91, in there. She takes 6 pills a day. I'm just tired of pain.
Yeah.
And if anything else can help me without me taking all of these medicine, I try.
The DEA is trying to make it a Schedule I drug, you know, on par with heroin and these other drugs, but you've taken it. You don't see it that way, do you? Doesn't make you high.
No. I do what I want to do, like always.
What kind of stuff do you do every day?
Everything I want to. If it's nice outside, I'm outside in the yard or whatever, because if I'm just sitting, it's worries. If I move around or whatever, then, I feel better.
If you're moving, you're not in pain.
I'm in pain, yeah. But I just I just don't give in to all of it.
When the government tries to ban something people want, the people band together and march on Washington. Kratom advocates were able to get 120,000 people to sign a petition to keep kratom legal. This march was a last-ditch effort to get the DEA to put the brakes on a Schedule I ban. When I went out to D.C. for the Kratom March, I didn't know what to expect, but I met some really fascinating people from all walks of life, and we had one thing in common: pain.
What do you guys hope comes out of this?
That I get to keep kratom in my life because it saved my life. I was pretty much suicidal before my doctor. I went in there suicidal. I got pregnant, actually, and I was sent to the methadone clinic. I had to have my daughter on methadone, which was a complete disaster, pretty much. It's a very emotional subject for me. I watched my daughter go through withdrawal for 6 months afterwards.
I was
was on Suboxone for 4 years straight, and they had led me to believe that Suboxone was a cure to addiction. They actually literally told me that this will cure you.
3 years ago, I was bedridden. Every day was a struggle, and now with Kratom, I can live my life. I can come here. I can do things without being in so total pain.
I actually ended up having a grand mal seizure. Oh, wow. From taking Tramadol. And I came across Kratom. I went from sitting in a rocking chair, weeping and saying goodbye to my daughter, because my wife and my daughter were going to leave the next day, to being able to actually finish up my service, and I still have my family.
I was on fentanyl for 6 years, and thanks to Kratom, I no longer have to do that. I can choose to help myself naturally, and I have for a year been off fentanyl.
I had about 15 years of my life go by in a blur of opiates. And then as I was kind of coming off and dealing with pause and just dragging, Kratom just gave me the energy to pull my life back together and stop the cravings of opiates.
OxyContin for breakthrough, oxycodone for breakthrough, 15 milligrams, and Tramadol.
So you were addicted to these,
obviously. Oh yeah. I was going through withdrawal symptoms when stuff.
And Kratom actually helped you get off of
I reduced all my pain medications.
I was on Tramadol for a long time, for over 2 years.
You go through a lot of pain. You're a professional football player, right?
It's given me my life back.
What is this DEA ban? What is it going to mean to Kratom users?
It turns them into criminals and drug dealers and drug addicts and drug users, and will mean for a lot of people depression and suicide.
So I was deployed constantly. I was home for a couple months. I'd get deployed again. I got out in 2007 with PTSD so bad that every time the phone rang, it set me off. I couldn't check the mail. I wouldn't leave my house.
I lost myself because of medicines. Me too. I lost myself because of my service to the country. I lost everything I was. But now I'm a Kratom. I've been given a new lease on life.
Drew Turner spent 9 years deployed for the U.S. Navy. He was honorably discharged when his shooting hand was smashed by a prisoner at Guantanamo Bay. He suffers from severe PTSD and Mage syndrome, which causes uncontrollable facial tics, and there's no cure for it. Kratom is the only thing that works. Without it, his life is a living hell.
I wanted something where I could get rid of the pain and feel a little bit better, but at least have some energy to get my life back. My wife would help me get out of bed in the morning. I would go to the couch, and when she came, like if she went into her office that day, when she came back, I was in the same place she left me. You know, I may have accidents. I couldn't get to the bathroom.
Wow, really?
I got to a point where it was pretty much just hopeless. When you hit that point of hopelessness, there's really two directions I could have gone. Keep trying or end it all.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, one thing I'm not going to be is one of those 22 a day.
22 veterans a day commit suicide because they are in pain. Whether it's emotional or physical, many experts say your body can't tell the difference. This is Peter Guidry. He runs a bicycle rehab program for veterans. They've been combating PTSD and addiction with bicycles, natural foods, and herbs like Kratom.
I feel forgotten. That's why we called it Forgotten Not Gone. It was just the honest truth. You know, they forgot about us. Am I going to be a broken vessel and just join the ranks of every veteran complaining about the obvious? They haven't been taking care of our veterans since the 70s, right? They didn't take care of our Vietnam-era veterans. They didn't take care of the Gulf War. So why am I so confused enough that I'm baffled and I want to kill myself?
Yeah.
I realize the VA set up to do what they do. It's acute medicine, right? It's a hospital. When's the last time you went to the hospital and had a breakthrough mentally?
Yeah.
You go there to get drugs. You know, a lot of the veterans are coming or are over-medicated right now from the drugs they're taking at the VA.
I think at one point we counted 26 different types of prescription medications that I had at one time had active prescriptions for. I'll spend weeks where I don't sleep, pretty severe nightmares. You know, just everything that I can feel bad about, I feel bad about.
I got addicted to my pain pills that they gave me through the VA for fibroids. Fortunately for me, mine was kind of monthly and, you know, here and there. But for my husband, he's in constant pain.
Yeah.
So he just sucked it up, and I guess he just got more and more depressed. It got to the point one time where I stole his last few pills. And he went to look for his pills, and he didn't have any. And I don't know what he was going through at that time. And he was like moaning in agony. And I remember lying next to him thinking, would he shut up? Because he's messing up my high.
But now, finding out about alternate forms of healing, we're talking about kratom, that helped me just deal with the pain a little bit, just so I don't mentally get so far out that I'm doing something self-destructive.
By the point where I started taking kratom, I was mentally and physically a mess.
Yeah.
You know, you could roll me up, stick me in a garbage bag, and put me out at the curb, and that was about all it was good for.
What are the side effects from that you get from kratom?
I smile a little too much.
You're a liberal.
I am a liberal
redneck.
I'm a liberal redneck, which people think is an oxymoron, but it's not. I'm also not a unicorn. There are more of me. We do exist.
Trey Crowder is a stand-up comedian known as the liberal redneck. His YouTube video about kratom got over 200,000 views and got a lot of people to sign the petition to keep it legal.
This is kratom. It's a tea made from the leaves of a plant related to coffee that has been consumed in Southeast Asia for hundreds of years. And it's the only tea I fuck with that you can't get at a chicken buffet.
I found kratom. I never heard of it, and as I started reading more and more about it, it's like, okay, it's related to the coffee plant, botanically, so it gives you energy and whatever else, but it's not the jittery kind that caffeine is. And I have become aware of the positive implications that kratom can have for opiate addiction, which is an issue that's extremely personal to me.
Guys, my mama cooks the best crystal meth you ever had in your life. So good. So good. That's a joke. I'm kidding. My mama never cooked meth. She sold pills. That's a totally different thing.
My mom had gotten wrapped up in pills and opiates, and not just doing them, she sold them too. So she got in trouble with the law because of that. She was went to jail a couple times over the course of me growing up. And then even when she wasn't in jail, she was, strung out or whatever. So she just wasn't really around.
What do you think the future holds for kratom? Do you think it's going to get banned? Do you think it's okay for now? Do you think
I think that they will end up banning it. I think it will become illegal.
It's a mild stimulant. It hits some of the same parts of your brain that opiates do, and so a lot of addicts have been using it to keep off of the hard shit, which does not sit well with the lizards at the farm companies.
Big Pharma is one of those powerful lobbying entities in the country, and I just knew. I was like, oh, this little plant that grows that can, can chop them off at the knees potentially. There's no way they're going to let that happen.
This is where we have found ourselves, that we must regulate our own regulators and bring the truth about kratom to light.
Meet Travis Lowen. He's the executive director of the Botanical Education Alliance. He's been involved in the importing and exporting, manufacturing, and analytical testing of herbal supplements for over a decade.
Is there a detrimental effect to human beings short a long-term effect as a result of using kratom? And the answer is no. Through donations that we receive, they'll fly me out to other states, and I meet with state representatives or senators or whoever else might be that's influential as far as passing these bills and so forth, to basically present the science, to present the facts. Is it safe? Is this safe? Like, if someone was to sit around, can someone really overdose on kratom? The answer is no. Try overdosing on coffee grinds. It's not going to happen.
What if a little kid found some pills and took them?
If a kid found some pills and took them, he might be pretty excited and probably go play outside for.
But it's not gonna.
No, it's not gonna kill your kid.
In Alabama, what's the big interest in banning it? Like, what was the big, huge,
Alabama has the largest prescription painkiller use to any other state in the United States.
Well,
there are actually, the statistics show that there are more prescriptions for painkillers than there actually are people in Alabama. The science is out, the studies have been conducted, we've seen several hundred years of safe traditional use, and the answer is, as far as addiction and habit forming, anything can be that. Nacho cheese, Coca-Cola, whatever you want.
Big Food spends billions to make our food more addictive. Sugar, fat, and salt have been shown to have a synergistic addictive effect. Cheese even hits our opiate receptors. Not nearly as strong as opioid drugs, but it does the same thing. It leaves us wanting more. In the food world, it's all about the flavor, the texture, and the crunch. And there's a concept called vanishing caloric density. If a food melts quickly, your brain thinks it has no calories, and you can eat it forever. Kind of like cheesy poofs. And companies study the hell out of it. I'm actually have been talking to a lot of people that use kratom to get off of opiates. We've seen it a lot, you know. Do you think that that's like kind of playing with fire? I mean, what do you think the problem is there?
Well, I think there's several things that need to be clear. First of all, to the degree that it's completely unregulated. So when someone says, I'm taking kratom and I feel just fine, really? How do you know what's in that packet? Because it's completely unregulated. You don't know if there's even any kratom in there at all.
Well, she could be right. There may not be any kratom in those packages. That sounds like the unregulated world of dietary supplements. 10 years ago, I showed the world how easy it was to make dietary supplements in my kitchen, and nobody could stop me. The problem is, I can still do that until I get caught. Although it's the law and people are ingesting these pills, many companies just don't care and don't follow the rules.
Look, I know some of these manufacturers, and like some of them just manufacture it in their garage. They manufacture it in their living room. They're packing capsules in their living room. They put it in a jar and they take it to smoke shops and sell it. I think there needs to be some regulation on it. There has to be, you know, FDA compliant companies that package it in a warehouse.
A lot of the packaging on the back, it says not for human consumption. What's the deal with that and why is that going on? And
I think it's because that's how they get it in the country. They don't want to have it tested. These fly-by-night companies, as I call them, that package it in their garage, they can't afford to send it off to get it tested.
Do you have more of an issue with the industry or the DEA?
Way more with the industry. Way more with the DEA, FDA, they're pretty consistent about what they want to do.
And they're just doing their job.
Yeah, they're just doing their job, and they're doing it for a reason. They've got one of the toughest jobs in the world. They have to ensure our food supply is safe, or, you know, if there is a problem, they have to step in and take care of it.
The fact that this industry is not regulated, is that an issue for you?
It's a huge issue. I mean, it's one of the most aggravating, frustrating things that we as a group, you know, the people that are in this business, we get together and we talk about how do we make this better? How do we keep the longevity going? Everybody knows that every legislator we've talked to, interacted with, everybody says the only way this stays is if we regulate it. Nobody's making the move towards regulation. For lack of better terminology, this industry operates like a bunch of head shop little fucking drug dealers. Nobody wants to work together. Everybody wants to do their own thing quietly, and we operate like a bunch of drug dealers. So the rules in the supplement world say you're either an FDA compliant label or you are not for human consumption. You are an adulterated product, you're not legal, you shouldn't be able to sell it. Because the people don't have, I mean, the people have a right to know what they're going to ingest. And if you do not have FDA compliant labeling, you're not disclosing what's in the package, whether it's safe, whether it's been tested, anything.
It's all about money, right? It comes down to paying these.
The majority of the vendors, every week they post this little list on Reddit where these guys are just the dirt bag of dirt bags trying to sell the cheapest kratom out there. When we have conversations, why don't you test your product? Well, I would have to sell it for more.
Yeah.
Or why don't you put this to a pharmaceutical co-packer and get this done right? Well, I can't afford to do that. Then you shouldn't be in the business.
Sure.
Then you got no right to be in this business.
In the early 90s, FDA Commissioner David Kessler was concerned with the safety of dietary supplements on the market. So he proposed a plan that would treat supplements more like drugs. To get approved by the FDA, a drug needs to meet both safety and efficacy standards. But that would be really expensive and cut into the profit. Enter the DSHEA Act, spearheaded by Senator Orrin Hatch. He's from Utah, where they make about 80% of the world's dietary supplements. He thought it'd be crazy to require companies to do safety studies on those pills Granny's been popping for 50 years, so he created the Dietary Supplement Health Education Act and rushed it through Congress on the last day of session. Any supplement created and marketed in the U.S. as a dietary supplement before 1994 was grandfathered into the system. So your vitamins from Ada Zinc are safe.
Hey, we can live our dreams.
But how do we know what's on the label is in the bottle? We don't. Enter GMP regulation. GMP just means good manufacturing practices. It means products must prove their purity and test for things like mold, bacteria, salmonella, and E. coli. According to a recent episode of Frontline, because of the DSHEA Act, the supplement industry boomed to over 85,000 products on the market from over 4,000 manufacturers. And the FDA only has a team of 25 people to police it. Only a small portion of supplements ever get checked on. So should we even be concerned that kratom isn't part of this broken system? Or should we be looking for a new system?
You know, it's significant. People are putting these products in their body. They're adulterated products, and there's a health risk, public health risk imparted into that, and that's where our concern lies.
This is Daniel Fabricant. He's a CEO of the supplement lobby group, the Natural Products Association. Yet he won't accept kratom as a natural product.
You want to still have kratom on the market.
I like it. I use it, for pain, so I like it.
I think you go to, for pain, now pain is going to be into the drug side.
Sure.
Okay, so if you want to use it for chronic pain, you go to those kratom manufacturers and you go, hey, you guys have to develop this as a drug.
But I don't want to be on a drug. I just want to take the natural plant.
Okay, Chris, the point is you're making a drug claim. That makes it a drug by law because you're treating something. Now, that's the real issue here, is intended use is everything. And if the intended use is as a drug, well, then you go that process. If the intended use is as a food, if you said, hey, Dan, I just want to use it because I'm in a better mood when I use it. I feel slightly better, not that you have anxiety or anything else like that, but, you're a healthy person and you want to help elevate your mood, well, then that would be the food or the supplement route. But again, that requires that safety study.
There's no special exemption. My daughter also thinks that when I kiss her finger and she has a boo-boo, that it helps it heal. Well, my lips aren't getting approved by the FDA anytime soon, no matter how much she believes that.
It's an issue, gets brought up, and then everybody goes, is addiction, right? And then everybody goes, well, what about caffeine? What about alcohol? What about tobacco? I guess, what about all that stuff?
Alcohol is regulated one way. We don't let people, under 21 have it.
Hello, Mindy.
But you also have data with regards to the use of alcohol and things like that. Tobacco, similarly. Tobacco is regulated now by FDA, Center for Tobacco Products. There are also products that have been approved by FDA on the drug side to help you overcome nicotine addiction. So, again, I think with both of those areas, and I'm certainly not advocating the use of tobacco or alcohol, but
sure.
there's a scientific base.
Yeah.
And I think that's where some of the issues are. I just want to see people, no matter if whatever they're selling, whether it's the industry, whether it's FDA, whether it's someone in the industry with a new product, there's a system there. Use the system, use it appropriately. We're here to promote the use of natural products. It doesn't help anybody when people are selling things with claims that make them drugs.
I think what we have here is a vocabulary problem, not a drug problem. The powers that be classify kratom by its intended use. So according to the law, if your intention is to elevate your mood or stay awake, then it's totally fine, and you can sell it as a supplement at a gas station with all sorts of claims on the bottle. But if your intention is to get out of pain or to get off of opiates, all of a sudden it's a drug, and it will require years of studies and cost on average $1 billion to get to market. Same exact substance.
The way that this works is you actually train the animals to press a lever so many times, and after so many times they get an injection of morphine. They can get food or they can get drug, and they can choose between one or the other, and they usually end up choosing the drug.
It makes addiction sound so simple. It's like, you hit this, you get a reward. I like it, I'm going to do it again.
Unfortunately, addiction as a disease is that simple. A lot of people say it's a choice. I honestly don't believe it's ever a choice, except for maybe the first time.
The people that are anti-kratom, I should say, are saying, like, look, if it's so good, why isn't pharma coming after it?
I know exactly why pharma isn't going after it, because you can't get a patent around it. We filed a patent for use as a treatment for any kind of drug withdrawal.
And it didn't go through, or?
It didn't go through. Actually, we met with more rejections from the U.S. Patent Office than our patent attorney said they've ever seen.
People have this perception that regular kratom use could actually cause serious dependence, and when you abstain from kratom use, it leads to severe withdrawal symptoms. I don't think so. The only thing is you need to know how to use kratom correctly, because in America, I believe that people don't really know how to use kratom.
So you think that we're just scraping the surface here? You think that we can actually go further if we start learning how to properly use this?
Exactly. If they can come, we can come all together and do good science.
Exactly.
And, provide some kind of funding to Christopher McCurdy. Then we can actually do good science, because as I said now, kratom has negative picture. The government is not going to provide any funding. It is difficult because, as I said, we are at the initial stage. And you get to see kratom using population is growing and growing and growing and growing.
You have a PhD in addiction. Have you seen people die from crystal meth?
Of course, I've seen.
Have you seen people die from heroin?
Of course, I've seen.
And 0 from kratom.
From kratom, I've not seen any serious medical problems.
Dr. Holcomb, next, you're a board-certified general surgeon, practicing physician who, at first, was against kratom, but your personal experience with your son changed your opinion.
Dr. Murray Holcomb is a general surgeon in Austin, Texas. His son Grant battled addiction and depression, and when he got out of rehab, he found kratom, which seems to be the one thing that really helps him.
He's up in the tree. So.
Oh, he's up there.
Yeah.
I got a DWI and I totaled my car just like 5 days before I went to treatment. So it wasn't your typical intervention where I walked in like they had planned it out or anything like that.
Addiction later became a significant part of that, although in probably more often than not, addiction with issues that or medications that were prescribed by the physicians.
I had a really bad leg injury in high school, wrecked a four-wheeler, and snapped my leg into like thirds. So that's the first time I was introduced to, painkillers.
What were your days like back then?
Take 2 swigs off the bottle that was next to my bed on the nightstand, pop a couple of my Xanax. Do that just so I would be able to go to work, so I could get myself up out of bed and go to work and work a full day, but throughout that day, popping pills as needed to kind of get myself through that, and then buy a bottle and work on finishing it.
1 in 5 adults will experience a mental health issue in any given year. 1 in 25 approximately believe a severe mental health issue that interferes with their ability to function or is disruptive to their life. 13% of the population is on antidepressants.
I'd happened to visit a shop that had kratom behind the counter. I decided in a good way to try that before I got the hotel room and got a bottle or anything like that. And from that first day that I took it again, and it had been probably 2 or 3 years since I had taken it, that desire to get my hands on drugs or alcohol completely left.
Kratom seemed to step in and give him just it for whatever imbalance he had. That's the key that fits him. So from that point on, and he'll be the first to tell you, Dad, it's not just kratom. It's, working on his spirituality, his relationship with God, going to meetings, giving back, exercise, takes kratom twice a day. He is not high, loopy, forgetful, inappropriate, anything.
Eyes are clear, and we've seen him.
Yeah.
We've seen him in...
He's anything but normal.
Do you feel like it's addictive?
I think it's got addictive properties for sure. I mean, obviously, and not necessarily physically, but psychologically. If there's something that's gonna make you feel better, I feel like that's addictive.
Now that I'm sober, one of my favorite things to do is to help other people by sharing my story at meetings. I was excited to speak at Cliffside, Malibu, a place where I got sober, but then I got a phone call.
So Mindy, who is our mutual friend,
yes,
just blew you out. Said, "We love you. We don't have a judgment on the kratom, but you're not speaking at our meeting."
Yes,
that's what happened.
Sure.
How'd that make you feel?
I kind of felt hurt my feelings, to tell you the truth. I love Mindy. It had nothing to do with her. It's just that I felt like maybe I wasn't sober anymore, and I don't know, am I? I mean, what is that? Where does that leave you? Taking something that's not ever been put in a category or put in a box, and I just take it because I'm in pain.
Well, I don't know enough about it. And I've done some serious study over the last few days. I've got Connie, who is an addiction research fellow, and she's given me so much to read that when I couldn't read anymore, I had somebody sit in my office and read to me. There's no uniformity in making the drug. There's no uniformity in the dosage of the drug. And ironically enough, I'm actually treating a couple people right now at Cliffside who have been abusing kratom. Okay. Having said that, it would be criminal, bordering on the criminal, to not do the research to figure out what the appropriate medicinal purposes are. People abuse everything. Well, Chris, you're just defending your right to use this substance, just like any other addict would. So how do we know? And the truth is, we don't know. Now, I know you and I believe you, okay? You look fine to me. I've never seen you look this good. I've never seen you this calm.
We get about 100 calls a day from people trying to get off drugs and alcohol. 90 calls are because of prescription opiates. 90 of them.
Why do you think that nobody's stopping the opiate epidemic?
Let's talk about why it's happening. Why it's happening is there is no advertising necessary for opiates.
You never see it.
Never. If you stop taking opiates, you get sick. You don't have a choice. People think slavery ended in 1865. It didn't. It's going on right now in 2017. Okay? Slavery exists today. Okay? If you're on opiates, you are a slave. You're not controlling that drug is controlling you.
Everything you got. Every goddamn pill.
So how long does a shipment this size last? How long does it take to sell this?
About a month.
Really?
Yeah.
2,500 pounds of kratom in a month. Kilos of kratom in a month.
So from here, what happens is once we open these, then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to test it. Whenever we send product out for testing, like all of this product sitting here, none of this can be used yet because we don't have the test results back yet.
So every batch you have to test it?
Have to, no, but we do.
Yeah.
We actually test it 3 times. The FDA put out this import alert that says we're not allowed to import this because they don't feel it's safe. But they haven't tested it. So I mean, they're basing their opinion without tests. So many people talk shit about the FDA, but we really need to support the FDA in this effort.
Yes, we do.
Because once everybody gets on board and, you know, when FDA says, okay, this is a full supplement, now we go back to pharmaceutical co-packers. So now everything's done in a clinical environment. We don't have to build each individual little segment.
Well, I'm surprised there hasn't been a politician, and maybe we need to find one that gets behind this.
142 Americans are dying every day of drug overdose, every day, which means we have a 9/11 scale loss every 3 weeks in America. So the first recommendation we say to the president is you must declare a national emergency. This problem, Jake, is not happening. It's not starting on our street corners. It's starting in our doctors' offices and hospitals.
Another politician trying to fix this opioid crisis is Congressman Mark Pocan. But kratom's illegal in his state of Wisconsin, and he wants to see that changed. So he and his colleague, Matt Salmon, wrote a bipartisan letter to Congress, begging them to keep kratom legal. And they got 50 other congressmen to sign it, which by today's standards is huge.
This is one where I think the people are way ahead of elected officials on issues like this. They don't see it as an issue. And when kratom came up, again, it's something that's been legal in virtually every state in the country. We haven't had problems with it. And then all of a sudden to see it go to Schedule 1 just raised that red flag that we thought we needed to at least try to find a way to put brakes on it. And I think the important part is we did it in a bipartisan way because, so often things are either done from the left or the right.
Sometimes you just got to do it right from where it needs to be addressed from both sides.
And do you think that, banning kratom could actually hurt people?
Well, absolutely. There are a number of people now we've talked to since doing that who've shared stories like yours that this is something that helps them, especially people who've been addicted to opiates. To take that away would seem wrong, especially if there's not hard evidence as a reason why. And so far, I haven't seen any hard evidence that makes sense why you could justify putting it onto Schedule 1. In fact, if anything, there's research, including from universities, that are looking at the positive effects of something like kratom. Part of why we have the opiate problem we have is that there was almost an overprescription of opiates and then an overreaction, like we often do, to stopping it. And then if people couldn't get now what they got addicted to, they went to the street and got heroin. And I recently was visiting a hospital in my district. A doctor came late, he goes, I'm sorry, I had my daily heroin overdose to deal with. I just got done with dealing with someone who came in. We should be shooting for every possible alternative way to make sure you can get people off of opioids. And unfortunately, I don't think we're doing that if we look at things like kratom as a Schedule 1 other than potentially a solution.
Another potential solution for this opiate crisis might be ibogaine. Iboga is a natural plant from Africa, that can turn 20-year heroin addictions around in hours. The problem is, it's a Schedule I drug in the U.S. Dr. Deborah Mash is the world's leading researcher on ibogaine, and she's fighting to make it legal. I wonder what she thinks about kratom.
Well, as you may know, I've spent my life's work working on a medication from Africa, another natural product called ibogaine. And ibogaine, which comes from the region of Gabon and Cameroon, another one of Mother Nature's alkaloids, we know can be used to successfully detox people off of opiates. So my worry is that, you know, we have people who are not opiate abusers, who have never partied with opiates, who now get introduced to the euphoria that kratom or mitragynine has. I think there's pretty good evidence that mitragynine is addictive. I think there's no doubt about the science behind that. So do we want another addicting opiate on the planet? Does it need to be studied more? Sure it does. We need more research. We need better molecules to treat addiction. Is there a place for developing mitragynine for the treatment of addiction? I'm not sure. There are many different ways that you can substitute an opiate to slide off of a heroin habit. Sure. And to not suffer from the withdrawals. And opiate withdrawals are terrible. So we understand why patients may want to have access to kratom, okay? But I want it regulated. I don't want it being sold, and maybe I'm getting old, I don't want it being sold in head shops. I don't want young people playing with it. We don't know enough yet, and I understand that historically a lot of people have used kratom.
Yeah.
I get it. But the bottom line that gives me pause over and over again is that we are faced now in the United States with a staggering epidemic of opiate abuse and addiction. I don't want to add to that. I don't want more people introduced to addicting opiates.
But pharma keeps putting out stronger opiates.
Pharma's another story, okay?
That's a problem, right?
Well, that's another, you know, I can't fight that battle.
Yeah.
Do I think pharma made mistakes? Oh, yes, I do. Do I think they're responsible for some of what we're seeing today? Yes, I do. But we also know there's more heroin on the streets than ever before, right?
Yeah.
Post 9/11, Afghanistan and the opium runs poison Americans. Just bring those drugs in. Yeah. And what we need to do is we need to help our brothers and sisters. We need to look at it with a humanistic eye to give people the opportunity to kick the habit the best way we can. And we've got to be bold. And maybe there's a place for kratom under medical supervision or in treatment centers. But, you know, without the money to work that up, it's not going to happen.
In this country, every time we have an epidemic, we stock and slap it, like the Diaz brothers. We weren't going to let measles, mumps, or rubella choke us out. Smallpox and Iron Mike Tyson KO in the first. Like the Terminator, we decimated chickenpox with extreme prejudice. And when our president got polio, we went all Ultimate Warrior and press slammed it. In the 80s, they sang We Are the World, and every continent band together and obliterated the AIDS epidemic. Why aren't we doing the same for the opiate epidemic? But I called the DEA, the FDA, and the NIDA, and they all said the same thing. We're not going to talk to you. So it's time to take matters into our own hands. First, we're going to need some money for research. You know, Dr. McCurdy was just in England and he came out with all this new research and he's saying, you know, the real thing that we need is money for research. And you've done really well with kratom. And I just keep thinking like, man, if all these other companies keep bombing out, they're not testing their product, they're not doing what they're supposed to do, like, we can do it.
The other thing I like that McCurdy's doing is he's developing that quick and easy test for adulterants. So if there people are not testing the product and the product is dirty, he's developing that test for that as well.
So like when I did prescription thugs, like it was a different thing, right? So I did prescription thugs. I wanted to help people get off opiates. And I think that we achieved warning people that opiates are dangerous, but I wasn't able to really get people off of them. I wasn't able to help the problem. And this is a step towards the solution.
I'd love to get involved, love to help. We'll fund that first round of research ourselves.
Kelly agreed to get the ball rolling on funding research. So I got him to hop on a plane with me, head to Florida and catch up with Dr. McCurdy. And now it was time to talk about making a difference.
Pain, emotional pain, and physical trauma pain chemically are the same inside the body. If we know that, how come we can't measure pain?
Well, pain is a subjective measurement. Nobody can objectify pain measurement right now. Like you're asking, why can't we measure it? It's the fifth vital sign now. So when you get checked into an emergency room or you get checked into the hospital, they want to check your blood pressure, your weight, your temperature, and then they ask you, so what's your pain level on 1 to 10? There's no way to judge that other than you tell me a 10.
How can we get involved? How can we help a lot of people? And how do we bring this, because we believe a lot of this plant and the possibilities of that it can provide.
We need to know where we stand on abuse potential. We need to know where we stand on the limitations of, how much can we give? What doses do we need to be giving? How do we need to be giving it? If we can have a standardized material that we know meets whatever the guidelines are for that standardization and doesn't go above or below that, so that every time you get that product, you're getting exactly what you signed up for. You can look at it in the spirits industry, you can look at it in the tobacco industry. If we eliminated all opiates from the face of the earth tomorrow, they find something else.
Street chemists will make a new one.
to go after, right? So I don't think it's going to be the end-all be-all, but I certainly think it's going to be a solution that will help people that are really interested in getting off of opiates. Why I became a pharmacist was because I wanted to help people. Why I ended up becoming a researcher was because along the way I fell in love with the fact that we can make discoveries that would impact far more people than if I was just at your corner drugstore. If we make a really important discovery, or we're able to be a part of a big process that can affect, not just people on the corner, but people on every corner, right? Not just in this country, but across the continent, across the globe. I would love to see in my lifetime that we were able to contribute in a huge positive way to opiate addiction, drug addiction in a bigger picture, because I really think this is beyond just opiate addiction, as we felt strongly enough about to file the patents originally on treating essentially every drug of abuse.
So we got the team together.
Team's here. We can do the work.
This is exciting, and the reason I make documentaries. Dr. McCurdy has agreed to move forward with his research to the point of the first human clinical trials with Kratom, and that can only happen if we're all on the same page.
The DEA is soliciting public comment about Kratom through December 1st. After that, it will decide whether it will proceed with any kind of regulation, permanent or temporary.
Kratom advocates went to work and sent over 5,000 comments to the DEA. But as the deadline got closer, I started getting nervous. What if it wasn't enough? What if they did really ban this plant and make it a Schedule I drug? Then I got an idea, and I sent a text.
It has these properties that have helped people bridge the gap when they get off of opiates, so they don't have withdrawals.
It seems like this is a drug, or a plant, I should say, that just does not have enough. There's not enough data.
There's not enough research.
Not enough research.
The vet I was talking about, he can't live without Kratom. What are we going to do? Take it away from him?
Yeah.
Like, where's he going to go? Back on opiates? To the VA hospital? Like, it's...
Fuck. What a weird situation. So we really need you, Chris. This documentary is actually important.
The one way we can keep this legal and keep other things legal as well is everybody needs to go to a website that the DEA has set up. It's called kratomcomments.org. And if you make a comment by December 1st, the DEA has to read it. And your show is so powerful. If we can get 10,000 comments, then this is going to stay legal.
New at noon, a massive public outcry has the feds doing an about-face on a controversial herbal supplement known as Kratom. The agency was flooded with thousands of angry calls.
DEA has backed off.
After 23,000 public comments submitted to the DEA,
99.1% of the comments said, "Fuck off, this is good."
And for now, Kratom was saved. A spokesperson for the DEA told me on the phone that the response was overwhelming. They had never seen such a positive outpouring from consumers. There were a few comments against Kratom, one in particular from Dr. Daniel Fabricant, who also blocked me on Twitter.
So there was a drug called Flocka. Have you ever heard of Flocka?
No.
Your body temperature rising to 105, 108 degrees. That's why this person had his family dump water on him.
So I think Kratom gets lumped in with these synthetic drugs like Spice and Flocka that are, watch, this guy jumps into the back of the car.
What the fuck? This is someone on Flocka? Holy shit.
We see and hear paranoia.
Please, and I taught.
Relax.
Please, and last time I shook and I taught my...
Oh my God.
I think it was a drug that they were selling in head shops down in Florida, and it got banned within, like, I don't know, a couple months of it being on the market.
Always fucking Florida. God
It's always
damn Florida. The gateway to demonic possession.
If there were ever an epicenter of addiction in America, it'd be Broward County. At the peak of the pill mill days, there were 89 of them there. Last year, 159 people died there, and plenty of people are more than happy to get you sober for a price. This dude charged insurance companies $58 million for drug tests that were completely unnecessary. All in Florida, all the time.
Ian Montner was on 3 antidepressants they all have a black box warning on them. This may cause suicidal thoughts in young people and adolescents. And, you know, that's something that's like, now you get to say, well, he died from Kratom. You know, I don't think that's fair.
Well, I'm not going to discuss that one case. I know what the state's leading epidemiologist will tell you. I believe your guys are going to interview him.
Sure.
I know what Dr. Mash, who studied it down in the University of Miami, will tell you, and what her white paper says.
Let's regulate it. If there's a benefit to it, let NIDA work through this.
There are companies, there's 3 companies out there that actually do it legally, like as a supplement, and they don't label it as not for human consumption. Most of the companies do, and I think that that's a bad thing. I think they need to get rid of that.
And how would you propose they get rid of that?
Do GMP, just run it exactly like the supplement companies run it. They test everything when it comes in, they test it before it goes out, and they know that what it says on the label is exactly what's in it. I think they definitely.
Well, I wish you luck. I know it's a hard thing to have an addiction and to have to get over it.
Yeah.
And I understand the fear of anybody that wants to take it away. You've seen that throughout the country. The voices that are addicted to one drug swing over, and in my opinion, are addicted to Kratom and don't want it to to go away.
It was never a problem before.
It's banned in its country of origin for over 42 years.
Do you know why? Because it was cutting into the heroin trade. They weren't making enough money off of their drugs,
Oh, that's
so they had to cut down
Kratom.
Kratom.
Freaking ridiculous soundbite.
Kristen Jacobs couldn't seem to get any of her bills passed or garner any support.
It's getting completely slandered. People are putting it with bath salts and spice, which is crazy.
Everything in this package on this ordinance, it's all negative. It's not balanced. It's not broad. It's inexcusable. There are people that are hurting out there, and you want to ban this stuff and put them in jail.
I know, Commissioner Jacobs, this is your last meeting, and I would like nothing more than to vote for something that you brought in your last meeting. But I'm not yet ready to vote on this.
You are dealing with those who are addicted, and you're sitting there listening to those maybe addicts in the room saying that they're not addicted, and you're hearing others appear out of a lack of knowledge, and indeed even our own medical examiner, who doesn't exactly deal with live people.
I guess it's not the voice of addiction, it's just the voice of reason. And it came down pretty hard on Kristen Jacobs. All of her bills got shot down, but she still keeps trying. After the hearing, the Florida State Law Enforcement Bureau conducted their own investigation and came out with this statement. A review of the information currently available through identified law enforcement and laboratory sources in Florida indicates that Kratom does not constitute a significant risk to the safety and welfare of Florida residents. In the case of Ian Montner, Florida State Law Enforcement said the presence of other controlled substances may have contributed to the subject's state of mind at the time of the suicide. I want to live in a world that is pain-free, addiction-free, and judgment-free. I want to reverse this pain epidemic. Being out of pain is a basic human right. So if someone is stuck in pain or stuck in addiction, we need to have the compassion to reach out and pull them out of it. I'll do everything I can to help further the research on Kratom and other effective non-addictive painkillers. But I do think it's kind of ironic that we have to do all these studies for something that's been used safely for hundreds of years. In the past decade, under the watchful eyes of the FDA and the DEA, with all their hundreds of clinical trials, studies and warnings, and all the programs that keep kids off drugs, over 200,000 Americans have died from opioid painkillers. A lot of people I really loved. So much for your war on drugs.
The opioid crisis is an emergency, and I'm saying officially right now, it is an emergency. It's a national emergency. We're going to spend a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of money on the opioid crisis.
Kratom may not be the only hope for this opiate crisis, but it's certainly one of them. So before we turn our backs on something that God gave us, maybe we all just need to take a leap of faith.
So when you did the studies, were there any side effects with the rats?
So when you did the side effects, were there any studies with were there
This is
side effects?
This is gonna make the blooper reel.
Yeah. So right over here, this house, this is the guy I was talking about with the gay feet. Oh, really bad? I'm just kidding. I'm just trying to point shit out so it looks like we're talking. Well, if you die at my house, you signed a waiver, right?
I haven't signed a waiver yet.
Shit. You should talk about smoking, but I still smoke. I still have bad habits.
No, I won't talk about that.
No?
No. My mother thinks I quit.
Oh, your mother thinks.
Some shit, yeah. No, I'm shy. Okay. Woo!